Over the last 8 years, the United States spent more on defense than all other NATO countries combined. If all NATO members had spent just 2% of their GDP on defense last year, we would have had another $119 billion for our collective defense and for the financing of additional NATO reserves.
Joining us now, special report host Bret Baier. Bret, President Trump having an extraordinarily successful foreign trip thus far, but he's facing his harshest critics and probably toughest moments here with this NATO summit.
Well, that's right. Good morning, Charles. I tell you, it was an awkward moment, clearly. You could look at the faces of those other leaders at that NATO meeting as he was kind of calling them out. But the bottom line here is that no one should be surprised. The White House forecast that this was what he was going to do. There is a lack of paying their bills. There are only 5 countries in the 28 nations who actually pay what they promised to pay, 2% of their GDP for defense-related tied to NATO. The U.S. pays 4%, and this goes back years and years where they haven't paid the bill. Donald Trump is saying it's time to pay the bill, and it's awkward. It's painful for some of those leaders to hear it. But he is the disruptor and promised to be, and this is him. The rest of the speech, though, Charles, obviously tied to fighting terrorism and unique bonds that he's made on this trip with Saudi Arabia and others that he thinks are going to bear fruit down the road. Yeah,
and very complimentary, of course, of King Salman and Saudi Arabia as well. It looks like he's established yet another relationship that have fallen through the cracks, to say the least, under President Obama. I do want to go back, though, to those faces you talked about, Bret, particularly Theresa May, who looked very, very upset, in part because of what's happened after this bombing in Manchester. But I want to also show where she and President Trump, they did have a chance to talk a little bit. Okay, so we see it right there. What do you make of this? I mean, obviously, they have a great point. They're in the midst of an investigation of a terror network, a horrific bombing that kills 22 people, and our media, particularly the New York Times, spewing information about it as it's going on.
Yeah, the intelligence leaks are a big problem, and they're a big problem here. They're a big problem when you're dealing with something overseas that gets leaked here, and it is a problem that the President of this White House says they are empowering the Attorney General to go after and to look for where these intel leaks are coming from. This is significant. If you think about it, it is sharing intelligence that potentially affects an investigation that is ongoing currently, looking for a network of terrorists behind that Manchester attack. That's something that Theresa May rightfully is upset about, yeah, and the President is acting on it.
I agree. I want to also ask you about the Democrats, because they're slamming now this House Republican health care bill after the CBO released their score last night. I want you to listen to what Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer had to say.
The report makes clear Trump care would be a cancer on the American health care system, causing costs to skyrocket, making coverage unaffordable for those with pre-existing conditions and many seniors, and kicking millions off their health insurance. Unless you're a healthy millionaire, Trump care is a nightmare.
What are your thoughts, Bret?
He's a good rhymer. No, I think that he clearly is making the case the Democrats are making, using the CBO report. You know, the CBO is like a calculator. What you put in, you get out. They do the math. It's not always 100% accurate, especially it's not even very accurate at all when it comes to analyzing how many people have insurance and how many don't. They were off by more than 10 million with the Obamacare CBO. I think that what the Republicans are saying in response, Charles, is Obamacare is falling apart. It is going to disintegrate. This is better than that, and it's not great, but trust us, we are going to make this better. The Senate, however, is probably going to be looking at a different bill than the House bill to begin with.
So the Republicans first are going to have to convince maybe the Republicans.
Right.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
See you, Charles.
And now